so proud to say this is better than the open house. But anything is better than the open house. What is up, Flick fans, and welcome back to my channel. I just watched the brand new Netflix movie called The Ritual. This is a very interesting low-budget horror film that premiered in the UK, well, overseas last year, but since I watched it this year and it premiered on Netflix this year, I'm going to consider it a 2018 movie. I'm so excited to talk about this. Let's get into it. A lot of movies coming out to review this weekend, so stay tuned to my channel. I've already reviewed 50 Shades Freed. You'll want to watch it. Not the movie, the review. Don't watch the movie. And as always, follow the link in the description to find my Stardust page. It's where I'm doing trailer reactions and reviews every single day. If you guys have never watched one of my videos, in my reviews I like to talk about the good, the bad, and then give you my score. Let's start out with the things I liked about The Ritual, shall we? So this film is directed by David Bruckner. I've never really seen any of his stuff before, but he does a really good job at capturing the low-budget horror Lost in the Woods vibe. In a sense, I would like to compare this to the Blair Witch Project, but I know it's been done in many reviews so far, so I'm just going to say that this is very much like the Blair Witch Project. I compare it to movies such as Evil Dead, Kill List, even The Wicker Man. There are so many elements that are captured in this film that I think are, frankly, really well put together on screen. So a group of college friends reunite to go on a trip to the forest. They're going on a hiking trip after a tragic event happens in this man's life to one of their friends. But while they're in the woods, they encounter a presence, and you guys can probably predict how this movie is going to go, but not really, because there are some interesting twists and turns here, and some elements that I really like that were included mostly in the first hour and a half of this movie. But I can definitely say, if you're a horror fan, the majority of this movie will work for a lot of you, and as a horror fan, while it did fall into some conventional traps and cliches at times, there were some very interesting elements to this movie. First off, I loved the score. I thought the score was so good. If you guys are a fan of The Witch, which is a movie that came out a couple of years ago, the score in that works so well with the period piece. And while this isn't a period piece, it kind of feels like you are while you're in the woods, and I think that's handled super well. And I love in horror movies when the sounds and the events are happening off screen. I think that's what scares you most, and I think those are the most effective scares as opposed to jump scares. There are not a lot of jump scares in this movie, and frankly, I like that a lot. Now, there are times when it falls into different traps, but that cliche is not in this movie, and I thought it did a really good job of horrifying you while things were happening off screen. There's also a great amount of character investment in the main character. The other characters are kind of left in the dust, and I'll get to that in my negatives, but our main hero, he goes through an arc from beginning to end, and I really enjoy where his character ended up in the film without giving spoilers. I liked him as a main character. Oh, and the cinematography, it is absolutely haunting. There are so many long shots, faraway shots, and long takes that I think do a great job of giving you the frights as a horror fan. It's a beautiful film to look at. Even though I watched it on a television screen, I actually think this movie would work pretty well in a movie theater. Now, with the good always comes the bad. There are a few things that I think this movie really struggled with, starting off with the ending. I think the first hour and a half, the pacing is a little off and it's a little slow at times, but you get the point, you get what they're doing. Now, there are issues with it, for sure. These side characters, you don't get invested in their stories. There are some plot points that pop up, such as a guy's wife. She keeps reoccurring throughout the story, but you never really get a sense of why she was important, and when it comes up at the end, you're not connected, and I think that's my biggest problem with these other characters. You are not connected to them. They do a great job of the lead, but they kind of leave the other ones in the dust, and they don't get a great character arc. And in horror movies, there is always that one character, in this case maybe more than one, that just doesn't believe the things that are happening are actually related to something that is not just all in your heads. Hey man, it's all in our head. Just things are exploding and people are getting eaten, but it's all in our head. No, that's not how this works. Yeah, I get it, you're in the woods, you're gonna go crazy, things are gonna happen, and you're gonna lose your mind, but losing your mind and not believing anything that's happening, even though it's so obvious that it's something more than a dream, is a bit ridiculous. And I think the biggest problem with this film is the small scares become victim to the finale. I didn't expect the ending, it caught me off guard. There were some elements in there that were kind of far-fetched and reaching, in my opinion, but it was definitely entertaining watching our heroes try to escape and then seeing the creature. That's all I'm going to say, because you know there's a creature in here if you've seen the trailer. Seeing the creature A phenomenal looking horror creature. My goodness, this thing was scary, so well done. One of the best looking horror creatures I have seen in a long time. I compare this movie to The Void. The Void wasn't a great film, but it was a really solid horror movie that not a lot of people saw last year. There were some great looking creatures in that movie. This movie has a great looking creature in it. My goodness. While the creature looked great, the whole subplot with the things happening with the creature was a little bit too much for me. It got away from what I really liked about the first hour and 15 minutes of the movie. But it still works in context, and I have to say, I kind of like this film more than I thought I would. This is the best Netflix movie I've watched all year. If you're not into horror movies, will I think you'll get a lot out of this movie? Absolutely not. But if you're a fan of horror films, if you like scares, I think you'll enjoy this movie. I was surprised I got a pretty solid payoff. It's a movie that I'm probably never going to watch again, but the one time I watched it, yeah, I can say I'm going to give this movie a 68%. A lot higher than I thought it was going to be. Nothing triumphant, nothing magnificent, but it's a very solid horror film, and I think one that's worth watching on Netflix. See, that's the beauty about horror movies. Things can make sense. You hear that, The Open House? Things can make sense. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like I said, tune into my other movie reviews. I have a lot of things I'm doing this weekend. Be on the lookout for those. You guys are the absolute best, and I'll catch you later.